You're listening to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. We are talking about hospital issues. Jeannie Rolla, my co-host, and I. Jeannie Rolla is in Indiana, and today's topic is going to be about hospitalists. Jeannie, we were talking about it on the last show when we went off the air, behind the scenes, if you will. Like, what really are these hospitalists? And we're talking about these different issues because both of you and I were in the system, if you will, and some of the care that we got, really, quote-unquote care, was not what we thought it was going to be care. And it was a rude awakening in serious situations that we found ourselves in, and just could not believe that there was no backup, there was nothing that we could do to rectify it, and we were just at the whim, my opinion, of what was going on. And it seemed like we did have informed consent. We should have had informed consent. We should have had patient rights and blah, 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 blah. And that was not the case in either one of our cases, in our situations, in our procedures. And it's just life altering from so many people that we've interviewed on this podcast, both in front of the microphone, if you will, and behind the microphone telling their stories, because not everyone wants to come on and give their name and testimony and all of that. It's very sad, really, to know these people and to know these stories exist. So today we're talking about hospitalists, what exactly they are. I have some information from locally of what I've been told. I'm not going to mention any hospital names, but I'm talking about what I deem, and I think you do too, Jeannie, the big box hospital situations, facilities, if you will. And from what I've heard recently, that you are not allowed, you as the patient, your PCP, your primary care physician, your, in my day called the GP, general practitioner, is not practicing in these particular facilities because they have their own hospitalists. And their hospitalists are ones that take over your case when you get into the hospital, and they're the ones that direct it. And so we started talking about this, Jeannie, you and I, because we're wondering where the care is coming from when you have your primary care doctor for a certain length of time, or any length of time, that really is more keyed on what your specific whole atmosphere is, the drugs that you're, allergic to, the things that you can't have, these are the tests we've already done. Now you're putting a new person into the situation, and many times you're going to get several hospitalists. So what is this doing to the care for people? Jeannie, what do you think about all this?
Well, there are a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, the hospitalist for my husband changed day by day.
Okay.
So he never had the same one in the days that he was in there. Each day there was a different one. Hospitalists are oftentimes, at least where I live, employed by a large physicians group, which is basically owned by the hospital system in which they're in. So, to me, some of them are lifelong hospitalists. Some of them are just wanting to move up the totem pole and not have to do that any longer. I was reading about their training, and most of them are trained as family practitioners, which is taken away from the ones out here that will see patients. So that's an issue. The other thing is, when I did some research, trying to find out what is the definition, I was surprised to learn that a hospitalist in some hospital systems are not MDs. Rather, they can be PAs or NPs, which, to me is scary, because if you're sick enough to be in a hospital as a patient, I would think that the doctor that you see daily should be a doctor, not an NP or a PA.
Okay, so a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner instead of a regular MD.
Right.
Yeah, I know. It is scary. Yeah.
And I know that was the case for my husband, that even though he had the name of a doctor written on his board, he did not see a doctor, but rather he saw a PA each day he was there. So, for a hospital system, in my opinion, this is a money-saving thing and a money-making thing, because you're paying for their services, and you don't have a choice. Most people probably would not ever remember the name of the doctor
Right.
that they saw in the hospital. My husband can't remember the names of
Right.
the 3 doctors that we put on the board. He can't remember who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, they're supposed to coordinate your care with your full-time doctors out in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, it is to me not a good idea, but it is the way I think most hospital systems operate anymore.
Well, you know what? On that note, Jeannie, not even knowing who your doctor is, I agree, because first of all, you're incapacitated for the most part, and if if you're not because of the procedure, you are because of the different drugs and stuff like that they give you, that go along with the procedures and stuff like that. So you've got that aspect. I'm with you. We had a doctor on a couple of podcasts ago. He went into concierge medicine, a geriatric focused GP doctor in the field for very many years, 30, 40 years, whose primary mission was to spend as much time as he possibly could and does with his patients, because that gives the better care. It was his opinion, and it certainly is my opinion, to get the background and the history and to know the patient, which is what I believe that you and I certainly have become accustomed to and used to, and that is what's going to give you the better basis and the better foundation for getting decent care. I mean, if you changed, whatever, teachers every other day or whatever, if you will, for your children in school, just using it as an example, you'd lose that basis for knowing the actual person. You'd have to go through that all over again. So now what do you do? Again, this is all my opinion. What do you do then? You start running a whole cacophony of tests, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, to try to create that picture that, in my opinion, existed when you had that continuity of care with your GP, primary care, whatever you want to call it, and the person that you are familiar with, and on the other side to it, would tell every instance that you can remember happening to give yourself a more rounded atmosphere of trying to tackle whatever the issue was. So in other words, you'd feel comfortable with your own doctor saying all the stuff. You may not feel as comfortable with a stranger, because that's what these people are, and you may not remember all the stuff as you could talking with a stranger. So I mean, I don't get all of it. I'm with you about the money aspect. We talk about that all the time, that a lot of this is just boiled down to the money aspect, and at the end of the day, what are we as the patients, what are our rights? Actually, what do we do about this to get the best care we possibly can, and to create the best medical system that we possibly can for ourselves, and also for the people that are working in the system. I mean, let's talk about that too. I mean, you're talking about stressful jobs for doctors, for nurses, for technicians, and all of that, and then throw this in the mix. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, we got like a minute and a half left. Jeannie, closing thoughts. What do you think?
Well, Cindy, I would rather have my own doctor.
Yeah.
A doctor that knows me. That's my feeling.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you, because that doctor's got the history. I mean, part of some of the information that I looked up, these started in about 1996, the hospitalists, being primary focuses in the hospital, taking care of you. And also, wow, it's just something else that you have to overcome, if you will, to try to get decent care. And I'm sure people that are in the industry, as a hospitalist, want to do the best that they possibly can, but it's just they're kind of working with one hand tied behind their back, in my opinion, as well. And I know that they're coming in on the front lines, if you will, to get experience. I get all of that, but to what expense? Both mentally, physically, monetarily, to what expense for everybody around? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So they say also that it saves your primary care, your GP doctor, from having to have the scheduling to go to the hospital to actually see you in the hospital. I'm going to just say that I don't believe that that's a valid point as far as the quality of care in that whole kind of initiative, if you will. Quality of care is being with the person that is doing the best for you, as long as they're doing the best for you. On that note, I'm going to say stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.